Hello everyone, I'm Annan, and today I'm going to show you how I modified Fenrir, my personal Dartzone Pro Mark III, and how I made it into a more practical slugfire blaster. I start this process by first taking apart the stock blaster, and then deciding to desolder the wires that connect the stock flywheel cage to the full auto circuit board, to wire up an XT60 connector to add cross compatibility between the stock flywheel cage and the new one, which you will see in a moment. So, with the XT60 plug wired up and heat shrinked, I decided to fully gut the blaster and get it ready for painting, and then I realized conveniently that all those external screws are the same size, so I wouldn't have to keep track of certain size screws going into specific places. Now on to the painting process. I started with a black Rust-Oleum primer for all the main blaster shells and small clip-on pieces. Then for the sparkly blue base, I use a Duplicolor Intense Blue Pearl. For the gray details on the blaster's main grip and the side plates, I use a Rust-Oleum Smoke Gray. Then, for the rest of the details, I apply a black and white brush paint on the blaster, extended battery door, and side plates where I added the blaster's new name. With all the details finalized, I finished it up with a Rust-Oleum Gloss Enamel Clear Coat for the main blaster shells and battery door, and used Rust-Oleum Satin Enamel Clear Coat for the small clip-on parts. So with the paint job finished, it is about time to put the internal parts and shell back together and see if it works. So let's start by reinstalling the side plates and other clip-on parts on the main blaster shells. Before I begin reinstalling the modified internals, let's briefly discuss the upgrades that I made concerning the flywheel cage and full auto circuitry. To start, the new flywheel cage is a 40mm 3D printed daybreak cage with included daybreak wheels, attached to two Kraken motors wired up to a corresponding XT60 plug to connect to the circuit board wires. Speaking of that, the two main resistors have been bypassed and the stock pusher motor has been replaced with another Kraken that significantly increases the rate of fire, which you can see demonstrated once I put the pusher assembly back together. Before I continue, I want to briefly show you that I'm replacing the stock muzzle with a shortened 3D printed one from out of darts, which I think will make the blaster perform better in CQB conditions. So let's pop that on really quickly and then test to make sure that the flywheel mech is working. And it is, so let's continue installing the rest of the pusher mech. With the pusher mech properly installed and the battery plugged in, let's demonstrate the new rate of fire of this blaster and see how ridiculous it is. Now that's awesome. So, with everything finally installed in this blaster, it's about time to button it up and make sure it works before I head over to the chronograph and see the new numbers. So let's get right into it. Lastly, I want to show you that I'm adding a 3D printed sling mount piece from out of darts that allows me to attach a sling on this blaster, which I think is necessary for how I intend to run this particular blaster. So with that installed and the rubber grip put back on, let's slap the original stock and mag adapter back on this blaster. Now with the blaster mod finally complete, let's talk about the chrono results. So with cut down chili darts, this blaster got a high of 183, a low 164, and an average of 173 feet per second. Then for the increased rate of fire, I'm getting around 10 darts a second. So with all the numbers out of the way, let's see some firing footage out on the range.
Alright. So now we do full auto.
So overall thoughts on the project, I absolutely love this blaster and how it performs. The slide fire mechanism being more optimal with the increased rate of fire of the full auto mode makes this blaster go above and beyond in practicality. That is why I'm going to be using this over my Strife mod, the Confetti Fiasco, in the future because it has the best of both worlds. Having that smooth controllable semi-auto feel of a Strife and that spray and pray full auto feel of a Rapid Strike. So with all that said, that is the general overview of Fenrir, my new personal flywheel primary, and in case if you want to use any of the parts I use for this blaster, I'll put links in the description box below to all the parts that I mentioned. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, thanks for watching, and happy modding!